lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name is Ryan, back again with my buddy Mario, talking Image Comics 30th anniversary. And this time we're going to be talking about Powers by Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Avon Oeming. And this is a book that I knew I had read at some point, but I don't think I ever fully read the run, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was thinking of videos to do, you and I to record, I think I had, when we talked, I had read the first 12 issues or something, the first two arcs.
Yeah.
So when we were at WonderCon, and then I powered through the entire Image Comics run, all 37 issues in an annual, and then I read the first 5 issues of the Icon when he moves it to Marvel. And my God, dude, this is my favorite Bendis so far. I don't really think that.
Yeah.
I mean, I like his Marvel stuff. I like Daredevil. I like Ultimate Spider-Man. But having reread those books, like within the past couple of years, this holds up more. And maybe it's because I never fully read Powers, so it's not like I don't have this like sense of nostalgia for it, or this is the feeling I had when I first read it.
Yeah.
But to me, the writing is better. You know what I mean? It feels like it will hold up over time more so than some of the other stuff. Again, the Daredevil one, I read the first arc and I felt like it was kind of dragged on. And obviously this is, when he was deconstructing and fucking stretching out over an arc, which could have been told in like 2 or 3 issues now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I loved it, dude. I'm like I said to you, I got them in single issues. So now I just have to finish it in single issues. I can't just go get a bunch of trades because my OCD, it'll bother me. But
it's hard to get. I mean, it's started and stopped so many times. It's kind of fucked. It's kind of like Astro City, but the Bendis version. So that also didn't help. It's such a weird thing because it's been ongoing for a long time. Like it started in 2000, but it was still being published way later because he would come out and switch over to. I think
because it switched. I mean, it almost immediately ends at Image and starts right up at Marvel. It's not like I don't think there's a huge gap. Although I was reading the letters pages, which, by the way, I fucking love the letters page. I didn't read every letter, but it was he just like goes off and just like talks about random stuff. You have random interviews in the back of the issues, but I would check each one, and it's like, sorry that it was late again, and it just like constantly that book was late, and then like Oeming would be on a project or Bendis was doing something. But we're just going to talk the first 12 issues, obviously. But overall, I mean, just that entire run of Image that he did, 37 issues, not a lot, but fantastic. And it's like one of my favorite genres,
Yeah. So, I was just saying this is like classic Bendis. And I think this is him better because like if you go back and read some of his original stuff, like in the 90s, where he was doing the art, he got really fucking wordy, and it's something to the point where it was just really really detracted from the writing, because even though he's a good writer, it would just go on way too long, and this is his next step where he gets better at it.
It was wordy as fuck. That first arc, my God, dude, who killed
It's still wordy, but you can see him getting better, and this is all the lead up to him on Daredevil, where I like, to me Daredevil is better. Because I think that's just he gets better at streamlining it.
I have to reread that whole run, but as of this moment, for me, like having
Powers more,
I just again, it's fresh in my mind, and it's like I think we talk about this with like Brubaker. What's your favorite Brubaker? It's usually whatever you last read by him, right? So for me, I haven't read Daredevil in a while. I read the first arc, but it's been like a couple of years. But I did watch him progressively get better throughout Powers. Like that first arc is, my God. Like I can't.
Some of those panels, you're like, why?
Yeah, well, I don't need to know all this. Like, just let the art fucking speak for itself,
Yeah.
But he does get better towards the end. I got to reread the Daredevil stuff. But I mean, this reminded me. I think I told you, right? I was like, this reminded me why I liked Bendis.
Yeah.
Because I don't really. The newer stuff is not for me. I'm not going to bash it, but it's just not.
It's just not the same.
Yeah.
Have you read Sam and Twitch?
I've never read Sam and Twitch, and it's impossible to find now.
And it'd be interesting for you to read that too, because Sam and Twitch started right before this started.
Okay.
And it's just interesting because it's kind of a similar approach, because that one's about the cops in Spawn's version of New York from their perspective. And it reminds you a lot of this too. because there's also it's also the same setup because this I think Sim Twitch started in late 1999, so it started right before this started. And in that one, he also gets it's really fucking wordy. Like there'll be literally like an entire page where it's them standing there in an alley and spawns above the rooftop, and it's just fucking text right next to all of it, and
Yeah, I
it's
hate
just
that.
back and forth, and he progressively gets better. But
Yeah.
but it's literally the same era because it's just 6 months to a year before this started. So it'd be interesting to see your take on that one as well.
Yeah, I mean, if I can find it
Yeah, I mean, you can
somehow.
borrow mine. I have the hardcovers.
Yeah, I'd be down to fucking do an episode on that because I've wanted to read Salmon Twitch. I mean, I like we talked about. You kind of compared it to like a Gotham Central, but in the Spawn universe, and I love Gotham Central. It's one of my favorite series.
Yeah, yeah, and this is kind of that too. Just kind of interesting to see
Yeah,
this be like a precursor to that kind of book.
yeah, I like that he, there superheroes exist in this world, but I mean, this isn't spoilers, but Christian Walker is a former superhero, but you
Right.
slowly learn his
Yeah,
backstory over time. And the dynamic between him and Dina Pilgrim
yeah,
is hilarious. I fucking love the dynamic between them throughout every issue that I've read. And it slowly grows, like their bond
yeah,
slowly grows. It's not even like from the beginning. It takes time for these
yeah.
motherfuckers to like accept each other for who they
Right.
are. And I think
No,
it's
it's really good. Like like it reminds. So like Gotham Central is this version. It's a version of serious cop stuff with superheroes, but that feels more like an HBO show. Like it feels like that's trying to be like The Wire.
yeah.
And this feels more like it's more of like what would have been WB at the time, where it's a little bit funner, a little bit more humor, a little bit more
Mhm.
lighthearted, but it's still serious.
Yeah. It's dark as fuck at times.
Yeah, but it nails that tone that really reminds you of like the late 90s, early 2000s of being kind of sarcastic, even
Well,
though it's
that's
dark.
it's his dialogue. Like
Yeah,
Bendis's dialogue was always one of my favorite things. That's why I liked his that's why I liked his work so much. Was his
yeah,
dialogue always felt very natural and very snappy,
yep.
you know? And
Well, it
that
reminds me of a show, and that's one of the, like I remember reading Daredevil for the first time, and that's what it reminded me of. That's the first time I've read a comic book where it felt like this could be a show, and this also felt like that too.
oh, easily. I never watched the show, as a matter of fact, the Power Show.
Yeah, no, it's not good. It's not good.
I won't waste my time. I kind of have to. I'm lying. I'll check
I
it
don't
out.
even know how to watch it because it was originally a Sony thing. It was like you had to
There's a
watch it through your.
DVD of it.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's
Because
on DVD.
originally you had to have like a PlayStation account because they were trying to make it part of like a PlayStation thing for gamers,
Yeah,
and
that died real quick.
it did not work out.
Yeah,
And it's not
they
great.
tried to start their own streaming type thing and
Yeah.
it didn't work.
Yep.
There's no other shows that I think ever premiered with them, right? It was just
No, it
Powers.
was out when they were going to try it on, and it immediately tanked, and it just didn't go anywhere.
See, I feel like if Powers would have gone somewhere else, it could have done better.
Unfortunately, now I think Boys kind of took that space.
I guess. I think Powers could do well nowadays. A
He
better streaming
could.
service with a better showrunner.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Bendis would just have to like maybe not have too much control. A little
Right.
bit, but not too much. I think you kind of have to let somebody take
Yeah.
the reins, maybe do a new spin on it. Because yeah, I think you're right. I think that again, I when I talked about Kirkman when we were talking about Haunt, like Bendis's characterization is another strong suit that I
Yeah.
think he has. I think that he really good at world building, really good at fleshing out even the supporting cast. He
Yeah.
doesn't just flesh out the main characters. It's like everybody, even background characters, like that cop that's just a fucking, I can't remember his name.
The little girl I loved in the first arc
Oh, yeah.
when she's like, "Do you know what a clitoris is?" I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's like an ongoing gag in that issue.
Yeah, that shit was funny. And where she ends up too. Like,
Yeah.
because that's kind of where I left off. She
I don't know
ends
if
up,
you ever watched The Shield?
no,
Do you know of that show?
I know the show, yeah. I've
So
never watched it.
that's a crazy ass show because you know how in most shows like season one's one story arc and then the next season's another story arc. Occasionally some stuff kind of goes back to something that happened in season one. In that show, literally from the first episode, it's the same story throughout the whole fucking show. There isn't really arc. It's always just one story that starts all the way at the beginning. And this kind of feels like that too, where there's gags that keep going on, characters that keep kind of even though they're just like a random girl that they helped out in this one case.
Mhm.
Like they continuously there, and they're constantly being developed, and then they still have funny moments, and they have like little gags that really works. And that's why like his stuff around this era really reminds you of like TV shows, but in a really good way.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is also a time when this era in comics is when a lot of TV show writers
Yeah,
started writing comics, right? Like, I mean, you had like Alan Heinberg on Young Avengers. Um, there's other ones too. Like Brian K. Vaughan is a TV writer also.
right. And this is a little bit
I
after
mean,
that too. Yeah, 2001 was Runaways, right?
yeah,
Something like that.
yeah. So yeah, I think that I also like the look at superheroics through this lens.
Yeah,
Like it's the noir genre, right? There's humor involved in it as well, but the heroes, it's all kind of a realistic look at them, like if people really had superpowers,
yeah,
but at the same time, it's not ultra realistic. It's not a Dark Knight fucking trilogy, the Christopher
right.
Nolan. It's not like that type of look, but it is like you see some of these characters and you're just like,
Well, especially at the time, like this was a very novel idea.
yeah,
This was something that we hadn't really seen before. That's I think it's one of the reasons why it got a lot of traction back then. Was this was like a fresh idea of like, oh, imagine if we analyzed superheroes through the lens of like a cop procedural,
yeah.
NYPD Blue or whatever, but in superheroes.
Yeah, and I mean, eventually, fucking like heroes get outlawed and stuff too. Towards the end of this run, well, the Image specific run. Man, I lost my train of thought. Forgot what I was gonna say. Fuck.
But either way, man, it's
I
really
lost it.
good. I really like.
No.
To me, the interesting thing is to read it and think about Gotham Central at the same time, because like clearly you can see how that got inspired. It's kind of nuts to me that I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about Gotham Central and bring up Powers.
And Gotham Central came out a couple years after,
Yeah,
right? Wasn't
yeah,
it like
I think
02?
04, 05.
Okay. That really that late?
I
No.
believe so.
I think it was 03, I think it was like 02, 03 for Gotham Central.
No, I think it was 04 or 05 because it was like right before Captain America. If only we had a magical thing that tells us these things.
Gotham Central comic book.
I hope you keep that in because that'd be funny. Yeah. Oh, December 2002 to 2006.
God damn, I'm good. God damn, I'm good with fucking years and days. Yeah, so it's like, I wonder, did they ever mention it? Did Rucker or Brubaker ever mention this?
I don't know that I've never heard them mention that ever.
Because this does feel like
adjacent.
A natural. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It feels like if, oh, you're a fan of Gotham Central, check out Powers and vice
yeah.
versa, right? Like, oh, you like Powers, you should check this book out.
Yeah.
I mean, now I love Gotham Central. It's a different feel, right? Like you're not really dealing too much with like superheroes. I think it's more so in Powers, but it does feel like that would be like the next logical progression of this type of book. I wish that there was a book like this still on the stands.
100,000%.
I don't understand why there's not. Maybe we're in the minority of liking this type of book, but I mean, Powers obviously, like as I'm reading it too. And this is the thing that I love about reading single issues, and this is why sometimes I will get those as opposed to getting like the trades, because you get to like follow along in when there was letters pages, like the goings on and like what was going on behind the scenes, and you start seeing Eisner. This motherfucker is getting nominated for Eisners every year for every category. I mean, it's nuts, and it was at a time before I discovered Bendis, so I didn't come to Bendis until Daredevil. That was my introduction to his writing. I wasn't reading the Spawn stuff, so I didn't see Sam and Twitch. I was reading Daredevil from the time Kevin Smith took it over. I got that trade, and then I started getting the single issues. So then David Mack comes in, right? Creates Echo, stuff like that. And then who the fuck is this Bendis dude? Like I didn't know who the fuck he was. And then like I started seeing his name in Wizard magazine.
Yeah.
And then I went back and read Powers, and I realized I think I might have started Powers at volume 4. I think that was my introduction to the book, which is not a great entry point into the series.
Well, that was also the time when that was normal. He started wherever it was at the time.
Yeah, but I mean, like it wasn't like it wasn't out that long. I could have easily started at the volume 1. There's only 4 trades out.
Right.
But even Oeming's art, I prefer him at this stage than some of like the newer stuff. I
Yeah.
don't know. It felt like a darker Bruce Timm type style,
Yeah.
just in a,
Well, and
I mean,
a little bit of Frank Miller in there because you have a lot of like
with
negative
the
space,
shadows,
yeah, and a lot of shadows and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can see where they're evoking that same kind of imagery from like a little bit noir, a little bit Frank Miller
Like Sin City had to have been a little bit of a inspiration,
inspiration.
I would
Yeah.
imagine, in terms of
Yeah.
the art. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that it's sad that nobody talks about this book anymore. Like it made me sad that I've never heard anybody recommend this book to me ever. And even though not that I need them to, because I knew of the book, I just, for whatever reason, kept, I'll read it later. I'll wait. It's, not a big deal. Then DC put out those collections and they collected the entire run when he brought his Jinx World stuff over there. But even those now, like, I think there's random volumes that there was a lower print run, so they're going for like money on eBay, and I'm just not going to play that fucking game. I'm not going to pay overprice for a soft cover trade paperback.
Yeah.
Fuck that. A hardcover is one thing. Maybe I'll do it for that, but I've never even seen the one you just held up. That fucking.
Yeah, these are icon ones.
Oh, okay. Those are nice.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I know they did do an original hardcover of Powers while it was at DC. It was the only thing that he did with Powers at DC, but I haven't checked that out. I'd love to see this book fucking come back.
I don't know if he still has it in him, but
you never know.
He does. You never know.
Pull out those scripts that are sitting in the drawer.
Yeah, I haven't reread the whole thing in a long time, but I think the last time I reread it, I did feel like it was outdated later on.
As the series progresses,
yeah,
like the Marvel stuff,
like going back to it a few years ago and going back to it, it did feel like I can see why people don't like this anymore, because it felt kind of out of place, and it felt like, because people like this is kind of cynical, kind of looking at superheroes in a more sarcastic way, where it's just normal, and the cops are kind of tired of dealing with it, and they're just like, oh fuck, god damn it, not again, kind of attitude to it. But I think nowadays people want darker and grittier for it to feel deep, or like it's saying something, which is, from my opinion, why The Boys is why this will never be a thing anymore, because that's what people want now as a deconstruction of superheroes. It needs to be really violent and really like over the top for it to feel like it's doing anything. Which is why I don't think anything else now will work if it's not like that. Because this is more procedural, but really it's commentary on superheroes through this kind of more cynical view. But it was never meant to be that harsh about it. It was meant to be a little bit more lighthearted, and I don't think that really works anymore.
I don't know. It's something I miss.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we just don't see it anymore, but like it just, none of this stuff works, because like Gotham Central also didn't really work. Like, and it worked, but you know what I mean? It didn't sell. And this,
that just means that there's a lot of people out there that don't like good comics. I mean, that's all that says to me, because I think Gotham Central holds up too.
Oh no, 100%, but it just doesn't work. Like people just don't really.
Sales wise, you're saying it doesn't work. That's what you're saying. Not that it doesn't work as in the type of work that they're producing.
Right. No, they just don't pay attention. It doesn't get the numbers. It doesn't get the following. It doesn't do any of that stuff, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, that's also bad marketing and bad publicity by the publishers putting it out.
Yeah.
If you don't put the push behind it, and you put the push behind something like, let's say, a Donny Cates book.
Donny Cates?
Yeah. I'll bring it back to Donny. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just think that for me, having like read that whole chunk, yes, I do think like it takes a minute for it to like really pick up. But overall, I think I didn't feel like it was dated. I don't know. For me, that's just how I feel. Maybe I was like putting myself back in that time period in my mind, knowing that it came out fucking 22 years ago.
Yeah.
Like that fucking makes me feel old as shit. But I don't know. I remembered how much I loved Bendis back
Yeah.
in this era. His Ultimate Spider-Man is still, to me, like that should be an evergreen book. That Spider-Man run is arguably the best, next to Stan Lee and Steve Ditko.
Yeah.
Right. And then his Daredevil run, obviously, that was just such a great era at Marvel,
Right.
that kind of like started it for me. So like reading Powers, some of it for the first time, not all of it, because I have read some of it. I just wanted more. That's all. That it left me wanting more. It didn't leave me where I'm like, I'll stop. I read fucking 40 comics of the same series in 2 days. I don't do that very often.
No, I like I said, I hadn't read it in a long time. I forgot how funny it was.
It is hilarious.
That's what caught me the most this time. Was it just cracked me up. There were moments like the clitoris thing.
The clitoris thing was by far one of the funniest things I've ever read.
And then they bring it back at the end when they're driving back in the car, and it's like, well, now do you know what a clitoris?
Yeah, Bendis, like I said, his dialogue, dude.
Yeah,
it just it constant, and it just like it's some of the best writing I think that I've read of his. It's maybe like over time, if let's say I read Daredevil again, maybe I might change my mind. I might say Daredevil is my favorite of his. It's just been so long since I read it from beginning to end. But I just think that Powers, both the type of book that it is, and his writing and the art in it, it's, to me, it means a lot when it's the same creative team too, which we don't see nearly enough. We do not see the same writer and artist on a book. Right. Sometimes you don't even see them on there for 12 issues. Right. Sometimes you'll see a fill-in.
Not even 6.
It's just such a rare thing. So to see two creators working on something that they own, putting their all into something that they own.
It's something Bendis does a lot. And he still does that now. Because like some of the stuff that he does recently that's great. His cover. That book's fucking awesome.
That is a really good book. Yeah, I'm waiting for the sequel.
But he has a bunch of these with Malieve, like Scarlet. He has a bunch of different books that he does with certain people, and that's just kind of a Bendis thing too.
I think he should just fully that's it. I don't think he should do. I think he's done enough.
Yeah,
in terms of like DC Marvel,
what he still seems to succeed at. Because I still really like Pearl. I still really like Cover.
Yeah,
I like Scarlet. I think those are way better, and they feel more like the Bendis that we know.
And that's funny that you say it, because that's kind of how I feel about Scott Snyder stuff.
What do you mean? With his Image stuff?
His creator-owned stuff.
Yeah.
No, not Image, but just his creator-owned. Like, I've read all the DC stuff he's done, right? But his creator-owned stuff, to me, hits a little bit better.
Yeah.
As time goes on. Like, you talked about, like, Noctera, how much you dug that book. I think We Have Demons is pretty dope, too.
Yep. Yeah, I like that one, too.
So, yeah, I think Bendis should just stick to this. I hope he has another Powers in him. I'd like to see him return to it, and not have it be published by fucking DC, because I'm sure they have their hands in everything, dude. They're constantly making bad decisions on all fronts.
It's true.
I mean,
I think to me, what makes me sad about this book is that it gets lost on a lot of people how this was unique at the time.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I think if you gave it to someone, they might be like, "Oh, that's it." I'm like, no, because you don't understand. This is 2000. This was not normal. People didn't do this. It felt like a TV show. It was funny. The dialogue was quick. It was sarcastic. It was witty, and it flowed. And it felt like you're watching. Each issue was like an episode of a TV show that you looked forward to. Like, that was not normal in 2000.
Yeah.
And to have this be a creator-owned thing that was kind of sarcastic, kind of cynical, but kept it kind of lighthearted was not normal. This is why he was a big deal at the time, because he created this entire, like I talked about that with like Nick, where we talked about Daredevil. Like, it's hard to think about it now, but at the time that was not normal either. He kind of created that.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's the snappier dialogue where it felt more like an HBO show or whatever. And it gets lost on people now. And I think, unfortunately, if you gave it to someone new, I don't think they would really appreciate what it meant at the time. It's kind of like the Matrix, where if you should give it to someone that's younger, they're just like, what's the big deal? And it's like, well, because it didn't exist. Like, this was not normal in 1989.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that is a problem people have. You don't, like I said to you, I put myself in that time period, knowing that, okay, this comic book came out 22 years ago, I was in fucking middle school when this shit came out. I didn't read it. I didn't read it till ninth grade, or I think I was, or beginning of 10th grade. So that's when the fourth volume came out. One of my friends in school was like, you got to read this. And he wasn't even like a comic book reader. I don't even know how the fuck he found powers, but I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. And I think that people are bored of that type of writing. I think that that's also what it is. People don't want that style of writing in comics now. I think the comic book industry goes in waves, right? Like 90s was all about the art. When Bendis was coming up, it was all about the writing. The writers were the stars. I mean, they even fucking Marvel had the architects. Like they fucking group them. You know, like these are the fucking names to look out for.
Yeah.
And I
Fraction
think now
Hickman and Ben and Brubaker and Bendis.
Jason Aaron, yeah. I think now it's more, I think there's more of a balance, you know, to me. I could be wrong. Maybe that's just how I feel, is that now it's more, I want both to be good. I'm not going to just buy a book because the art's good. I'm not going to just buy a book because the writing's good. You know, I think that, and people don't want a fucking, especially with like, you know, that I want it now, streaming, binge watching. People don't want to fucking wait 6 months to fucking find out a story arc. They're like, no, I want to fucking know now. So that is why I think that maybe if this book's coming out now as it was written, maybe I would get bored. I could see somebody reading this now if they read it issue by issue, month to month. Dude, this is taking forever.
And delayed 4 months.
Yeah, dude. I mean, fucking, like I said, dude, in the letters pages, it was constantly delayed. I
associate this book with a book that took forever to come out. In my mind, it's a book that I like look forward. Like that's mostly Bendis in general, because like Scarlet is only 12 issues over the course of like fucking 10 years.
Yeah, that's insane. And I don't know who that is, that Bendis or Malif. I feel like Bendis writes super fast. So, I mean, he was at one point, he was writing like 5 or 6 books.
Yeah.
And they were coming out on a monthly basis.
He was writing Avengers, New Avengers,
Ultimate
Spider-Man. Was he still, might have been still on Daredevil? Might have transitioned to Brubaker at that point. I'm not sure. And he was always writing fucking Mighty Avengers and a bunch of other random bullshit at the same time too. Yeah.
So it's probably Malif. Whatever. I mean, it's worth when you finally get a book drawn by Malif, it's worth the wait. Yeah. I don't think he never shortchanges you. He never fucking gives you some garbage product. You know, it's just
and it goes back to the whole idea of like it's the same. He keeps partnerships with his creators and he sticks to that. Like he doesn't do fill-in. There's no David Mack issues of Scarlet. That's his Malif book, and then cover is his Mac book, and that's it. That's what it is.
And Michael Gaydos on Pearl, which is coming back. I'm excited for that book.
Although the naming is really dumb, but whatever. That's a whole different topic.
Yeah.
Pearl 3, because that makes sense.
It doesn't at all. But yeah, I think that it goes back to like runs, you know, like with the same creative team. I think it's special and it's unique. It's more unique now than it was back then.
Yeah.
You know, like we saw longer runs still in the early 2000s where you'd see the same writer and artist, maybe a fill-in, right? But for the most part, it was a continuous run. And 37 issues, in 4 years? That's not very much. That should have been 48. So that just tells you how long it was taking for fucking comics to come out. But yeah, I think that Powers, I think it holds to me now, looking back at the time period it came out in and looking back 22 years later, I think it holds an important place in comic book history. I think that it is a book that people should check out and take yourself out of the fact that style maybe not be the writing may not be in style anymore. That type of storytelling might not be what's in right now, but it is an important part of history. And I think that Valentino, good on him for bringing fucking Bendis in to Image when he did, because I think he was at he was doing Caliber with Torso, Jinx, and what's the other one, the third one, Glory,
the Fire,
it's not Glory? No,
I think Glory,
no.
Jinx from the big ones, aka Goldfish.
Goldfish is what I was thinking of, aka Glory. It's a fucking Rob Liefeld book. But yeah, I think that, you know, Bendis coming to Image was huge, and I was holding out hope. when DC fucking stopped doing James World, I was like, just come back to Image. Just bring your stuff back to where it belongs, you know? But now he's literally published those books at all of the major publishers.
Yeah. They created Icon basically for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were going to do the Epic line at some point. I know, oh no, they offered the Image guys that when they were leaving Marvel. They're like, oh, we'll give you the Epic line, and they turned it down. But yeah, they did. And then Icon also brought in Kabuki by David Mack. That was also through there, right? And then Men of Wrath with Jason Aaron, and then that died. That whole line just died.
It was mostly just to appease Bendis at the time. That's mostly why it existed.
Yeah, they were smart. He had, I mean, he had the most influence at Marvel for a fucking at least a decade, at least a solid 10 years. Bendis was the guy at Marvel. And I don't think anybody since then has had that kind of power. I don't think anybody moving forward will ever have that kind of influence at Marvel or DC. I mean, especially with the way the market is now, you know, people fucking, they get bored if somebody's so quick.
Yeah, we see that with Donny Cates, like his popularity is so down.
Well, that's because he doesn't know how to end a story. That's
I mean, but you know what I mean. Like his like rise and fall and like kind of waning is only lasted a few years.
Well, he's also in the fucking midst of a fucking speculator type boom again, which Bendis wasn't dealing with. The speculator fucking market crashed.
That's the other thing that's crazy. If when you go reading single issues too, is you go back and read like Daredevil, for example, there were barely any variants.
I know, it was a better time.
There was like, if you go back and look at all the issues of Bendis's Daredevil run, only some of them, like, because they would have like a, you know, 500th issue of Daredevil, and that one might have a bunch of them just because they're celebrating how long Daredevil's been around, but most of the issues didn't have any variants at all. It would just be, that's just issue 17. That's it. There's no variant.
I know. I wish it was back that way again.
So none of that stuff, it just didn't exist. You basically only read Daredevil because you liked it, not because it was a thing.
Yeah, because it was one of the best books being published in comics.
Yeah.
And so was Powers at one point too.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is a time where there was a bunch of shit just popping off. You know, Bendis was doing all this, and then Brubaker started coming in, and Breck started coming in, and they had a bunch of Eisners were being thrown around.
I know. God, dude, I wish I was reading more of this stuff back when it initially came out. And you know what else I like before I mean, my last thoughts on it. I love all the little Easter eggs he has throughout, whether it's creators' names as the names of streets, or that one issue where it had all those creator-owned characters, like when they were questioning, I think, about the murder.
Yeah.
Right. It had like, I think Madman was in there.
Oh, yeah.
Like that was really dope. And then at one point, David Mack is a cop. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, wasn't, you know, that ride along issue?
Warren Ellis.
That's Warren Ellis, right?
It's Warren Ellis.
Yeah. That's what I thought. And I think it was based on a real event.
Really?
Either Bendis or Warren Ellis went on a ride along, and that's what that issue is based on. And then the guy is based on Warren Ellis for some reason. It might have been Warren Ellis that did it. But anyway, it's based on a real ride along.
I had no idea. That's pretty dope. Yeah, I think that I think everybody should read this book. Everybody. I think that this transcends any type of fan too. I think that whether you're a fan of superheroes, it would be something you would dig. If you're a fan of, like, I would say Brubaker and Phillips fan. If you're a fan of like criminal and shit,
yeah,
I would recommend
if you
this
like
book.
Gotham Central, I think is absolutely something you should check out, because it's definitely in the same vein.
Yeah, this has become a favorite of mine, and I can't wait to finish the entire run. I have to finish the first Icon, and then he kept relaunching it, which is really annoying. So there's a bunch of number ones, which is really stupid, and I hate.
Didn't read a lot of the older stuff, the early, the more recent stuff. I didn't read. I don't think most of it, just because it just became kind of a joke.
Like not good at all.
And no, I mean, it just relaunching and keeping up. I was like, I don't even know what's going on anymore. And there'd be a long period of time where it wouldn't come out. I just kind of stopped paying attention.
I didn't even realize it went on for as long as it did. For some reason, in my mind, it ended a lot sooner than it did. Like, I didn't know that the first Icon series was 30 issues. So he did, I would say, almost 100 issues of Powers out there, I think. Between
but then the last bits is just sporadically and random, and
that, I think that's, see, I started getting it when it came to Icon, like in single issue form. And then I gave up because it was always late. If a book is late only so many times will after so many times I'm like, I'm just not buying this book.
Or
I'll just get the
inconsistently,
trade.
like if you do it where like a lot of the Image guys will they'll do 6, take a break, 6 more, take a
That's
break.
different. Yeah, that's different.
Totally fine. But this is like 3, and then they're 4 months late, 2 issues come out, and then another 6 months go by, and then he'll drop it, and then another number 1 comes out, and you're like, what the
Yeah.
what are you
It's like
doing?
that book Brilliant he did with Mark Bagley.
That
I couldn't even tell you what that book's about. Issue to issue, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. You know, you lose me as a reader. Like, I can't remember.
yeah.
You know how many comic books I read, and I'm not the only one that reads a shit ton of
I
comic
don't
books.
remember. I remember the cover where he's the bullets like coming out of his face or something, but
Yeah.
I have no idea what that book's about anymore.
Yeah, that was another book that was incredibly late. But anyways, yeah, go check out Powers. This is maybe not peak Bendis. I won't say it's peak Bendis, but it is Bendis in his prime for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's arguably one of the best books to come out from Image in this era. Because early 2000s was not the best time for Image. I mean, I don't think it starts picking up really until 2003 when Walking Dead comes out. Invincible came out around the same time, but they weren't doing numbers like they're doing now. And
Right.
to have that type of book, that kind of recognition at the time was huge. And I think it's just such a not only important part of history for Image, but in comics in general. And I think it's a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. That's all I got though. All right, cool. Well, if you're not already following us, make sure you check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Comic Lounge. If you like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you're notified every time a new vid goes up, and continue to join us as we go through 30 years of Image Comics, past, present, future. And on that note, we're out.